Hi, this is Dr. Pingle walking you through assignment 3, parts 2 and 3. So in this assignment, you're asked to gather some extra data from the CIA World Factbook, graph it as a line graph, and then find 3 more quantities from the CIA World Factbook that you think are good indicators of what it's like to live in a country. This is the data as we prepared it so far. The sample is here. So here's the table that we formatted in the last part. And what I'm going to be talking about are these two sections here. So how to make the graph, and then a little bit about what goes into this paragraph for part 3. This is the data so far. What we want to do is create a line graph. So I'm going to choose a column that's different than the last one that I did in assignment 2. So I'm going to choose GDP per capita, and I'm going to hold down the control key to select a second column here, and I'm going to select the country name. We're going to insert a graph, or a line chart, I should say. Now, ordinarily, you might choose something like this. A data scientist would prefer that you use something like this, and the reason is that each of these countries is sort of a discrete independent value, not a part of a continuous phenomenon. So I'm going to select this one, move this down. We're going to need to make one minor adjustment. Mostly this is going to be fine just the way it is. But I do want to make sure that I've got a y-axis label. So I'm going to add a chart element, axis title, and primary vertical. And then we'll edit that. So we're just going to use what we have here for the title. And it's good to put down the units. So I'm going to put GDP per capita in dollars. And then since this information is the same as that information, and we don't need this twice, I'm just going to delete this element. So that's all it takes. The more countries that you have, it's probably going to look something like this with the country names stacked vertically. You do just want to make sure that all of the country names that you're graphing are visible. So I'm going to stretch that back out kind of the way that it was. I'm going to right click on this and click copy. And back in my temporary assignment, sorry, that's from a previous version. From the assignment, I'm just going to right click here. And I've got several paste options. What I recommend is that you paste as a picture. This is going to make sure that it sort of looks exactly the way that it looked in Excel for you. And then you can resize this without things like fonts changing size. Part 3 asks you to find 3 quantitative metrics on the CIA World Factbook that you think summarize or provide information about, a perspective about what it's like to live in any particular country. So if we go to the CIA World Factbook, you can explore these. So I click on Africa and Egypt. What you'll want to do is kind of look through these different headings. So I'm going to click on economy. And you've already gathered information about things like GDP, GDP per capita. What we're going to be doing here is looking for 3 more variables that are numeric or quantitative. So one of these is right here. This is the GDP real growth rate, which was 4.2% in 2015 in Egypt. So this is a number. Any number like that is going to work. So for instance, gross national savings is numeric. The unemployment rate is numeric. So any of those would work as long as it sort of gives you a single number here that you can work with. That'll work for this assignment. Things that wouldn't work very well would be things like agricultural products. So you can see that all of these are just words, right? No numeric values associated with those. So agriculture industries would all be poor choices for this assignment. They wouldn't work very well. There's a lot more than just economics. So you can look at people and society. Plenty of numeric quantitative variables here. Median age, population growth rate, good ideas. Things that wouldn't work well. Religion. There are some numbers associated with these, but you'll notice not with all of them. And in any case, this is sort of a mixed quantitative nominal variable. Languages would be the same way, not a good choice for this assignment. So going back to the sample, what you're going to do is you're going to tell me what those 3 numbers are, those 3 variables that you've picked. And then you're going to write a sentence or two for each one of those describing why you think that's a good choice, what perspective that adds to understanding what it's like to live in a country. So that's it, parts 2 and 3 for assignment 3. If you have any questions, be sure to email me, and good luck with the rest of the assignment. Hi, Dr. Pingle back again. One final comment, and that is for the graph that I've presented, all of this data was already sorted when I started. Now, if you had chosen a different column, so suppose I had chosen column D and A, and I create a graph, you can see that what I'm getting here is an unsorted line graph. Like the last assignment, we want to make sure that this information comes in sorted. So if you wanted to do a different column, GDP in this case, I would need to make sure that I sorted on this column first. So I can highlight all of my information. I can do a custom sort, and this time I'm going to sort by GDP. And smallest to largest, largest to smallest doesn't really make much difference. We'll do largest to smallest. That'll look something like this. And then when I grab both of my columns and make my graph, you can see that I've got a sorted graph. So make sure that what the graph that you turn in, the graph that you make, is sorted from highest to lowest and looks something like this. If your data isn't sorted, you're going to have to sort that before you make your graph. All right, that's it. Good luck with the assignment.